This is part 2 of My Grandmother Made a Bargain Before I Was Born. Guys, you can find part 1 in the description below. Let's get right into this one. Maybe it was the other shock of heartbreak I felt upon finding out that they've sold me for wealth. No, I did not understand why such a thing had to be necessary, why all these lies had to be told, especially now that I'd fallen in love with Troy and wanted to get married to him. I thought this was the least of my problems, not knowing that life had only just started playing games with me. When I fainted, there was only darkness for who knows how long. I only came back to in my childhood bedroom hours later with a pounding headache. For a moment, I was confused as to why I was there and not with Troy. Where was Troy? And what day was it? I had to get to tell my parents about my engagement, but they knew. I told them, and they told me I cannot get married because I'm already married. Piece by piece, the events of the past few hours came back to me. Just as my mother entered the room, daring to say, "Oh, you're awake," I was getting worried. Damn right she would be worried that the prize cow fainted. I felt incredibly dirty and sick to my stomach, thinking about how everything was a lie. They cheated me before I could make decisions of my own. My grandmother joined her, telling me that I needed to eat to be healthy because soon Andrew was coming. I told her to forget about me and Andrew. She could marry Andrew if she wanted, but this was my life, and they would not make me the rules in it. What they did was illegal and should have been punishable by jail time. They tricked me into signing those papers, telling me it was so they can take me to my sister co-owners of the house. Well, my grandmother started to cry when I told her to leave me the heck alone, asking what her fault was when all she wanted was a better life for all of us. But she had to have options. Everyone had choices in life, and that was not her choice to make. My mom told me that I was being rude to Grandma. It would be my fault if Grandma's high blood pressure increased to dangerous levels. Once again, they were using scare tactics, and I was afraid that they were working. My grandma left me and my mother. My mother told me that we're going to be financially ruined if we went back on our word. Already, the elders have spoken and realized how beneficial this allowance was going to be for both the families. If I backed out at any moment, then Andrew's family would want all their money back, forcing my parents to liquidate the company. She started telling me it was going to be so humiliating for us, how we could even lose our house and place in society. I asked her what stopped them from coming up with the money all these years and just paying it back, but she told me they cannot go back on a bargain. I knew she was trying to make me feel guilty and convince me that I was being selfish by not making this sacrifice for the family. She told me that without the bargain, we would have to be forced to go back. I would not have this degree, job, or even know Troy. But who is to say that that was going to happen? The more they spoke, the more I realized that my feelings simply did not matter. I told my mom that I was not going to live with Andrew within a year. If they tried to force me, I was going to press charges against her. She left me alone. Then I heard the key turning in the lock. I did not have a phone, and I was too weak to even attempt to escape. I was there for a few days. By the second day, I did not even care enough to try and leave. At the end of the week, my mother came to me and threw a phone onto my lap. It was Troy. He was holding another woman's hand. It was 3 days after that day when it was supposed to be my wedding. That was enough to jolt me awake. I missed my wedding day because they locked me here. Not only that, but he moved on as if I meant nothing. What the big duck? This one's going to be a bad day. I could have sworn I felt a sharp pain go through me as if my heart had just been pierced with a sharp knife. But it was so hard to tell my physical and emotional illness apart. For weeks, I've played off how pale my skin was, how I constantly felt sharp pains of anxiety, and how I had to bargain with myself every morning to even wake. It was depression, but nothing could cure this. I told my grandmother that I was not mentally prepared for this, that I could do it, but I needed to mentally prepare. She said, after all the sacrifices she made, how can I now talk about depression? Depression's not real, according to her. Seeing him not even looking for me, moving on like that, I decided that there was nothing else to do but cut my losses. When I messaged him, he told me to leave him alone for I've made my choice. Then he blocked me. All that, and I had to lose, and I lost already. I hated him. I hated my mom, my dad, and as well for what they're making me do. The only person who seemed to be on my side was my sister, but she's a child. There was nothing she could do to help me. I was in a trance-like state in the weeks or months while the families planned an official wedding ceremony. I met Andrew the very next week, smiled when I had to, and said all the right things, like a good girl. He was also well-mannered, respectable, traditional, and sure about what he expected from me when we got married. He told me that we did not need to be in love. We just needed a strong alliance. He did just enough for everyone to think we were getting along. But every time he touched me or smiled at me, a part of me inside died. It was a very hot summer that year, but I was always cold. So cold. Maybe it was my mood, the fact that I could not properly eat, though my family forced me to eat, to endure meetings with his family and staying on my feet for hours on end, serving them and parading around like the perfect daughter-in-law. My heart was ailing. I was crying myself to sleep every night and stopping myself each time I attempted to text him. Told myself that enough damage has been done. He could be with whoever he wanted to be. I was a married woman. Though I was legally married, both families were planning a grand celebration, after which Andrew and I would leave to start over. I know what to expect. His family wanted me to bear their heir, so to be doting imported wife. And the day was looming with each day that passed by. There had never been an unhappier bride in all of existence on this rock. During one of the biggest pre-wedding ceremonies, I was trying my hardest to get through it, but everything was just too loud, too blurry, and even the smell was pungent. I was sitting down trying to gather myself after popping yet another pill that did nothing to help me when my mother-in-law came to me, asked me if I've ate. She had a plate for me. I was about to send the food back to her when my grandma gave me the look that screamed, "Don't even dare." I put the dish of fish up to my lips, caught a whiff, and there went my breakfast, all over my mother-in-law's dress. Somehow came to my side to lift me up, but I lost all my power. I blacked out. Not for the first time. I did not know what was going on with me, and I did not want to find out, for I feared it was with child. The thought that the family would force me to kill my child so that I could continue with the marriage was in my mind. It wasn't far-fetched. They were doing damage control, covering up for me when I missed family events when I slipped up. They needed to have me gone as soon as possible. When I woke up once again, my world flipped upside down. My angry mom told me I had an hour to pack my stuff and go to my child's father. What I did was embarrassing, ruining them beyond any repair. The wedding was off, and now they were in massive debt because of my stupidity in getting pregnant. Pregnant! The words echoed in my head. I was pregnant, and the father wanted nothing to do with me. I had nothing. Not one family member. I told my parents that I would gladly leave if it meant I would not have to face the lack of love for me ever again. I did not say anything further to them, just packed my stuff and left town. I don't know how I ended up at his door, but I believed my heart carried me to him. When I saw him, I threw myself into his arms and cried. Then I screamed, asking why he did not fight for me. Just once, look for me. Once I had screamed myself hoarse while he watched me, he told me to come in. I told him everything that's happened up until my fainting and the family concluding that I was pregnant, so they wanted nothing to do with me. He asked me why I would just break up with him like that a few days before our wedding, and I asked what he meant. He told me that my mother came to him with a letter from me, telling him that I was choosing my family over him and that he should never contact me ever again. I never sent that letter. This had Grandma and Mom written all over it, and they've gone too far now. There was no easy way for him to express this to me, but after he got the letter, he started drinking. and rebounded, unknowingly cheating on me. My heart broke even further, even though I already knew. He told me it was a once-on thing while he was still in town, and he did not know how my mom got a hold of the proof that she showed me. That was because, as calculating as she is, she knew exactly what he was going to do and made sure that she got that picture. This town was small enough for her to have all that information readily available at her rich hands. It was all too much for one night, especially with the possibility that I was pregnant, and the storm, that storm was far from over. But a slight weight lifted off my shoulders. The next day, he came to me with a doctor where they did all the tests. He waited with me patiently and was there holding my hand when the doctor told me that I suffered from anemia. This was why I was so tired, cold, and nauseous all the time. It was a huge knock to me to find I was not pregnant. But maybe it was for the best because things were not perfect between us and we needed to fix them before we got to that point. I got all the medication and then went back to his place, but I could not stay there forever. I didn't want to. But he told me that until I was back to normal, I was his responsibility. I did not need his pity. It felt like pity for me when he allowed me to stay with him. But it was not that. It was him showing his commitment to me. Once I felt like all was right, I gathered the courage to contact Andrew to finalize the marriage annulment. I was scared as hell, especially with things his mother said to me and the name she called me, but Troy was there, being my rock, while I faced them. I got the annulment on my own terms, and that was one of the best days of my life. Afterward, the both of us went to my parents' house, now that I was strong enough. I told them the truth about my condition, but thanked them for jumping the gun like they usually do. I told them from now on I was my own person, made my own choices, and did not owe them anything. I paid the debt with my sanity and mental health. Did they not feel shame for putting me in prison or a forced marriage? They told me I was nothing to them, and they did what they was best for me. I asked them how lying to my fiancé was trying to help me. What they did was sick, and their day was coming. I also warned them that if they were planning the same fate for my sister, I would have them in jail quicker than they could say marriage. Then we left. I felt so empowered after leaving with him. I know the plan was for me to move out when I had recovered since, after all, we were not back together again. But before that, we went to see his parents. They told me that he had refused to tell them what happened when he canceled the wedding just a few days before, and they've been so worried sick about him. There was nothing I could do but explain to them what happened to me, and apologize for breaking their son's heart. We had a very enjoyable meal afterwards, and it felt just like old times. By the end of the night, I realized that I could not let this family go. Yes, my family screwed me over, but with his family, I had a support network. People who at the beginning might not even know much about me and my culture, but they learned and made me feel comfortable. Unlike the people I shared blood with, who lied to me all my life and did not care about my true happiness. Troy and I spoke, and we decided that we were going to rebuild our relationship from the ground up, starting slow from just being a couple. We had a lot of stuff to sort through, some anger and resentment towards each other, which we worked through by talking it out and attending individual therapy sessions. Yes, there was also an issue of infidelity, but I've decided to forgive him for that as the matter was complicated. I shall never bring it up again. Now, my husband and I have a stable marriage and looking to start our own little family. Yeah, fast forward. We got married a while after we rekindled our flame of relationship love. Yeah, walking down the aisle without my family hurt. Even after all they've done, I wonder at what point the bad outweighed the good. I wondered what will happen when old age finally seeks in and takes my grandma away. When my father retires, and when I have a child who will one day ask about his family. I don't know. But when I think of them, I surround myself by immense darkness still. I've been married for months now, and I bet they don't even know. I've only told my little sister. She told me that they had to sell the company, one of the cars, and they might sell our house. They've been shunned by the family back home because of me. Though my sister does not say it, I know they resent me for dooming them. I do not know. Am I responsible for the downfall of my family, and was I really selfish? But they're not the ones who have regular nightmares of being locked in a room, seeing Troy holding someone else's hand, and being doomed to a future with a man I know nothing about. It scares me. I wonder how long I would have been able to live with myself, backed into a corner by my own family. Well, I hope one day I'll be able to forgive them. I just could not believe it took 2 parts before OP finally kicked her toxic family to the curb. The breaking point is obviously when OP finds out that the mother faked the letter. Guys, let me know what your favorite part of this drama was, and where you think OP should have steered differently. Drop your thoughts down below, guys, and we'll turn our attention to story number 2 on the day. Partner of 7 years left me at the altar, and now wants me to take her back. My girlfriend, fiance, ex-girlfriend, I don't even know, have been dating since she was 19 and I was 21. We've seen through everything together, and basically grown up together. I've always known that when she really panics, she tends to run away from stuff. She used to randomly break up with me and try to dip when we were very young, but we talked through that and got better at that. She hasn't done that for years now. Anyways, I proposed a year ago. It was hardly a surprise. We've been discussing marriage for years. We both knew we'd be on board to do this after she finishes her MBA and got a job in the city. Everything was perfect. The past year has been very hectic in planning a wedding since we're both from another country, where grand weddings are the norm. And we had to fly people out, etc., etc. About 2 to 3 months ago, the nerve started to hit her and she tries to talk to me about it. I'll acknowledge that it's my fault here. She did try to bring it up to me that she was nervous and that the whole ordeal of a grand wedding was stressing her out. Ideally, she would have wanted a small destination wedding with a big party afterwards. But due to both of our families requesting a big wedding and inviting all their friends, we succumbed. She was also nervous about the commitment of marriage, finances, amongst other things. All of this we had discussed before, but I guess she just needed reassurance. However, in hindsight, I did not realize that every time she brought it up to me before that, she was anxious. I just chalked it up to be normal cold feet. People get it, and would just say it'll be fine and brushed it off. I was also stressed with a lot of work to do before I took my long leave, and planning and budgeting all of it. We both make a very good money, but this wedding was going to be out of our budget, and we did not want to take any money from our parents. All of it got pretty stressful for both of us, to be honest. Well, she seemed a little jittery the night before as well. I told her to calm down, just try to sleep. Mostly, I was very excited to make her my wife, something I've been dreaming of since the day we started dating. She's the love of my life, and it was still hard to believe she was choosing to marry me. I was the happiest man on earth. On the day of the wedding, she just dipped, ghosted me. She left me a note apologizing and saying she could not do this. And she just ran. I don't even know where she went. All of it unfolded so quickly, and it was almost like a movie. All of her family members coming into my room while I was ready to walk out onto the altar, asking me where she was. Pretty traumatic. I ended up crying in front of all my family and friends. Our parents handled the guest of all of it while it just went home. Heartbroken. She wasn't there. I spent the entire day calling and texting her, and her phone was switched to airplane mode. Well, she walked in at about 11 at night and just kept crying and apologizing. I told her, just go to sleep. I need time to think about everything that's happened. Now, I'm turning to you guys because I don't know what to do anymore. She has apologized multiple times and wants me back and says she's even ready to do the grand wedding. And she regrets having run away in the momentary lapse of judgment. She knows what she wants to be with me, but she just panicked and got the cold feet. I can't imagine my life without her, but at the same time, my trust is broken. I don't understand why she couldn't just be more of an adult and tell me properly before the wedding, although she insists she tried to. I feel disrespected and just heartbroken and embarrassed that I had to go through all that. I don't know if I can or should even forgive her. What if she does this again and runs at some other important event, like she did on the most important day of my life? Guys, any suggestions on how to proceed would be much appreciated.